welcome back once again to another episode of the Gold Corner. I am just, filled with joy, and I'm overwhelmed of the great response that we're getting for this channel. I know you're going to hear me say it week in and week out, but I'm getting a lot of messages, a lot of phone calls from parents that we've been helping. These stories that we're featuring and the parents that have been featured, they've been getting a lot of help. They've been actually contacting me and just saying thank you for the channel, that it's been a blessing. So again, this is what my intention is here, is to create a family, to create a family of support of parents and of children that have gone through this or are currently going through this, or are survivors that have gone through this, and they know exactly firsthand how this all is. So this week is actually a very, very special episode. I actually got there was a mom, Ty, who got a hold of me. Her and Laura have a podcast called The Golden Voices, which they had actually they invited me to be a part of, and I'll be letting you guys know when I'll be on that podcast. But it was there where I actually met and heard about our next guest. And when I found out and I went back to social media, I actually found out that I had her nonprofit organization already, and I was following this young lady. And this is going to be an incredible story. It is an incredible story. And I have the honor and the pleasure. I'm not going to say too much because I want her to go into it in detail, and everything that she has gone through and currently going through and what she's doing. So I have the honor and the pleasure of having Hannah Soderstrom with us from Wichita, Kansas. So you really want to pay attention, and you really don't want to miss her story. It's an incredible story. So Hannah, I just wanted to welcome you to the Gold Corner. When I heard your story, I mean, it had me in tears, and it was it's a beautiful story. So now I'm going to get to hear about it, a little bit more in depth and in detail. So Hannah,
Yes,
once again, welcome to the Gold Corner. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
I was diagnosed on October 14th of 2016, which yesterday was 4 years since the days of being diagnosed and in the hospital 4 years ago today. And now is just a perfect time to go back and remember what I had to go through and to share it with other people so they know the experiences that they might have to face or overcome. So when I was 13 years old, this was before I was diagnosed, and I was a very active young girl. I would say active. I didn't play any sports, but I was very healthy. I wasn't overweight by any means. I was always doing something. I was in dance classes, I was in singing lessons, and I was doing music theater. So I was in a lot of musicals held by my community. And when I was in those musicals, I would have to do something called Tech Week, which is the week before the show. So we go through and we do all the lights, all the staging, all the working with props and just getting ready for the show. And so it was a very intensive rehearsal. And so after every single night of practicing, I would come home and be so tired, and I wasn't able to do homework because I would have to just go straight to bed because I was so sore and my body just couldn't handle that much energy. And so I would end up going to school the next day, still super tired, very unenergetic, just no energy whatsoever. And you could start to notice that in my PE classes. I would have to take fit classes in middle school, which it wasn't like PE where we got to play games, but it was like a very low level weightlifting class. And we had to measure, we had to take stats of how much we could lift one week, and then the next week how much we could lift, and then your goal was to get to a certain amount. Well, everybody else was going up, but I was going in reverse. And it was really funny because my fit coach, I would tell him how much I hated the class. I would tell him that I absolutely hated it. I never had energy for it. I said, this is not for me. And he was like, oh, it's okay. You're fine. Keep going. You got this. He's like, you don't hate it. You're just telling yourself that. And so when it got to the point where I really couldn't do it anymore, that's when I started running the fevers. So I was sent to the nurse's office, and she was like, you got to go to the doctor and see what's wrong. So I went to the doctor the first time, and she didn't do anything but examine. And she said that I just had a virus, that it was just, since all I was having was a fever and low energy, that it's a virus and that it'll go away. But just go home and basically just rest it off. So that's what I did. And then I went to school when I wasn't running a fever again. And then it ended up like I ended up getting a fever again in school. So I had to go back to the nurse. And the nurse was like, well, there is mono going around the school, so you should probably go check for mono. And so when we told the same doctor that I had mono, she was like, okay, well, we have to run a blood test. And she didn't run a blood test in the first one. So the second time I went to the doctor, she ran a blood test. And in that blood test, she saw that my platelets were very low. Like, it was so low that like she didn't need to do anything else. She knew it was leukemia. So at that point, my parents and I still didn't know. My mom just got a call from the doctor, and she said, basically told my mom, pack a bag, go to the hospital. And my mom was thinking, okay, we're going to go to the hospital, get more tests. It's mono. We'll probably be there 2 hours, one night max. Like, she wasn't thinking anything about what was going to happen. So my mom and my dad picked me up from my grandma's house because she was watching me, since I didn't like being home alone while I was sick. And so she picked me up from there, and my dad and I and my mom went to the hospital. And I remember so vividly walking into the hospital with children ever. I'm gonna get free food tonight. They're gonna like do the blood pressure thing. I thought the blood pressure thing was like the coolest thing ever. So like them getting to do that was like so cool. But no, it got even better when I walked into my room. There was a gift basket there, and inside that gift basket was like coloring books, pencils, and colored markers, and a blanket, like a ball cap, like a stocking, like a beanie. That's what it's called, a beanie. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. I get gifts. These nurses are so nice. It started to be not so cool when she put the IV in me. I don't like needles. I got the worst illness for not liking needles, let me tell you. But not even 20 minutes in, it was lunchtime. So I was like, Dad, go get me lunch. I'm hungry. And so he left and went and got me my favorite food. Well, while he was gone, the nurses had started piling up into my hospital room. And then doctors started coming in, doctors, residents, the pharmacist, child life specialist. And then comes one older man, a doctor, and he kind of makes his way through all of these people, and he stands at the foot of my bed, and he said, Hannah, do you know why you're here today? And I said, well, I think I have mono. And he just kind of stared, and he was like, well, actually, you're in here because you have acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And a 13-year-old hearing this for the first time in their life, I didn't know what it was. So I just kind of like sat there in shock for like 0.1 second. And then I replied and I said, wow, that's like ripping off a Band-Aid. I was like, you just really went there. You just really just said that. And my mom, of course, starts like bawling and crying and is getting worked up. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, okay, can someone explain to me what this is now? And the child life specialist brought in her plethora of examples and just objects to explain what I was going through. And of course, none of them had thought to use the word cancer. So I was still like, okay, what are we doing here? And then finally, the child life specialist was like, okay, well, it's a type of cancer. And so that's when I kind of got a little bit of an idea of what we were working with. And so since I was diagnosed on a Friday, I had to stay in there at least till like minimum Monday, because I had Monday was the day I was going to get my port in. We were going to start intro chemo. So I was in there for like 11 days. I was in the hospital for 11 days after that Friday, but it was all very overwhelming because it was all at once, just there. Like there was no ease into it, where there was no just, it was just all at once. So I remember my mom just being so sad, and I like would have to tell her, I'd have to be like, you being sad isn't going to fix this. We gotta work with what we got. I said, we have to figure out how to go about this in a different way. So after that first initial stay, I had gotten my port in. I had gone through the first first intro chemo, the hardcore stuff, and I had, I feel like there's something else. The first chemo, like I didn't think it was going to be bad because I wasn't nauseous, but the first time after leaving the hospital and going into my room was weird because my room didn't feel the same. It had all of the stuff that people had sent me, all the gifts and condolence letters, and just like memories and feeling that I knew that I kind of had to get used to. So the first time I go in for chemo, I didn't have my port in, and they didn't access my port while in the hospital because my port was already accessed after the surgery. So when they told me to basically lift my shirt up and access my port, I was like, hold up. I was like, you're gonna put a needle in my chest? And they're like, we have to put a needle in your chest. And I said, only this one time, right? And they're like, no, every time you get chemo, you gotta get the needle in the chest. And I told you I didn't like needles. So when a needle's going to your arm, but when a needle's going in your chest, that's scary. Like, it's scary when it goes in your chest. It's not fun. But yeah, so I was really bad with it. I would cry, I would scream, I would kick, I would like not act like a 13-year-old. I would act like a 5-year-old. It was really hard for me. But going through it, I didn't start seeing signs of losing my hair until I took doxorubicin. And that, I didn't like that one. That one was not fun either. But I kept my hair all the way up until Christmas Eve. So it had lasted 2.5 months before I lost it. But we did shave it on Christmas Eve, and I got a wig for Christmas. And I only wore that wig once. I didn't wear the wig. It was so itchy and it was not fun. It made my head hot. Yeah, I feel bad. I only wore it once. But going on with it, chemo made me very nauseous. I mean, it's not something I would ever voluntarily take again, but not only did chemo make me nauseous, but I mean, it made me lose my hair. So I never had to shave my legs. And chemo also kills fast-growing cells. So pimples, I didn't have to go through a really bad acne phase like most high schoolers. So I'm always that type to find that little silver lining. So these are my silver linings if I had to say that there were some. But when I'm not finding the silver linings, the hardest part of chemo was the hardcore methotrexate. The heavy bag and gallon bag of methotrexate really, it damaged my body very severely. And I'd received it late January, early February. So they would give, I was an outpatient chemo, so they would give me basically a backpack, and they would put the chemo in the backpack, and I would take it home with me. And it would come through me morning, day, like 24 hours a day. It would just always be going. So with fluids constantly going in your body, you are constantly having to go to the bathroom, and you're constantly like sweating it out, and you're having all these liquids just like come out of your body. And methotrexate is such a dangerous chemo. It is my least favorite by far, because what had happened with the methotrexate is that it went in and it tore up my GI tract, so all the way down, and it caused mouth sores like all over my lips and my like the insides of my mouth. So when they sored up, the scabs would fall off, and my like mouth would start to bleed. And if I was sleeping and that happened, it would like, the blood would, this is so disgusting, but the blood would dry on my lips, and I wouldn't be able to open my mouth. Like, and if I did, I would rip skin, and it hurt so bad. And we went to the hospital, and they couldn't put a feeding tube down because my GI tract was damaged so badly. So they wouldn't be able to open my mouth. So after I would say 7 days of not eating or drinking, and just having an IV go through me, they were like, we have to do something. And so they decided to do intravenous vitamin, and like think about reading the side. She needs it. This was a last resort option. There was nothing else they could do. Well, they knew the side effects. The doctors knew the side effects of what could have happened, and of course, with my luck, those side effects did happen. And the side effect of intravenous vitamin K is anaphylactic shock. So I remember this also very vividly. I had it inserted, and the nurse was required to stay in the room for 20 minutes. And if after 20 minutes I was fine, I was good. Well, 5 minutes goes in, and we're just kind of sitting there, and my eyes started itching so bad, and I was like itching my eyes, and my mom's like, you need to stop doing that, you're gonna like rip the only eyelashes you have out. And we were kind of just like, the only time we were like thinking positive was just kind of like making fun of it. And I was like, no Mom, my eyes really itch, and like right after I said that, I just like fall back, and I didn't pass out, but like I wasn't responsive. I like could hear everybody around me, but I couldn't like express, like I couldn't talk. And it was really scary because they pressed the code blue button, and you know, when you press the code blue button, everybody's there. So you got everybody on the floor, all the nurses on the floor, all the doctors on the floor, all the residents that you have. Everybody was in my room. And I remember when I did become responsive, my sorry, oh God, sorry, I'm so sorry. Come here. I'm so sorry. I didn't think she would do that. She's usually really good. But okay. So I'm gonna like put her outside. I'm so sorry. Yeah, sorry. So basically when I went unresponsive, I could still hear everything going on. And I just remember my mom like getting pushed to the very, very back of the room. And the nurse that was in there before was like feeling my pulse and making sure everything was like fine. And all these doctors were above me. And like, I still honestly don't know what they did, but I remember when I did become responsive, the first thing I said was no needles. The first thing I said was no needles, no needles. I don't want needles. And they're like, it's okay, you're fine, it's okay. And they were just trying to be reassuring. And I don't even know if they did put any more like IVs in or anything, but I do remember getting rushed and getting a CT scan done. And they were checking like the brain activity to make sure it was still working. And then after that, I was sent to ICU. So I stayed in ICU that night. And I remember my mom felt so bad calling my oncologist that night because it was Wednesday. And she was afraid that she would take him out of a dinner and all of this stuff. And she just felt bad. And like, it was really weird because when I would go to the hospital, I would hit every single holiday. So I was in the hospital for super Valentine's Day. I got close, but I didn't hit Christmas. But I was in there Thanksgiving one year, and I just became known as Holiday Girl because if there's a holiday, I probably was out the hospital. And so, I mean, not many kids get to say that they spent their birthday in a hospital. So there's that. But going through chemo was very hard. I hated it. And my heart goes out to, gosh, just the babies, just the little, like, I feel bad for everyone who has to go through it, but kids that can't communicate stuff, my mom and I would talk about that all the time, just like toddlers and babies, like they can't tell you that their stomach hurts or that they have a headache, and they just can't communicate the little things that got us to the hospital so much quicker and let us know things so much better. Because like I would tell my mom that I had a headache, and that would mean that I have low blood counts, so I would know to go to the hospital to get more blood. These poor little babies, they can't tell you that they have a headache, and it just, my heart goes out to them so much and their families, because I think that would make going through chemo treatment just a million times harder. And it's just crazy. But I knew that while going through chemo that I wanted to not take my diagnosis and then grow out of it. I wanted to use my diagnosis, and I didn't want to end chemo and then decide, okay, well, I'm done now. This has been fun. See you later. I'm not touching anything with like related to cancer ever again. I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I had seen many of my friends do that, and that's fine. That's totally fine if that's your option, because it does bring back a lot of PTSD even talking about it. And do it. It did felt for me that I needed to share my story and to help other people. So I found it amazing when all of these nonprofits would reach out to me. Going through chemo, I had worked with nonprofits like the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I had worked with Make-A-Wish, and these were places where I was able to speak and share my story and tell them why everything was important. And I worked with several other nonprofits that had helped me. But when I started growing hair back, these nonprofits kind of disappeared. They were still there, but in the very back. But since I didn't really look like a cancer patient, I wasn't really the face of things anymore, which I understand. You need to move on and kind of get a new person. But I was kind of like, hey, I'm still going through chemo. I know I don't have no hair. Like I still have hair, but I'm still going through chemo. And that kind of hurt. So when I was trying to find nonprofits that like were supporting at the end of the journey, I couldn't find any besides, I guess, Make-A-Wish. But Make-A-Wish just kind of like a one-time travel. And I loved my Make-A-Wish. It was fun. And I did that at the end of my treatment. But I wanted something that could help kids further along, like something to help them sustain. And so that's kind of when I came up with the idea of Even Mermaids Get Leukemia. And I wanted to do it because I myself didn't know what I wanted to go back into. And I had made a bucket list after that Valentine's Day. And one of the things on my bucket list was to become the All-American high school cheerleader. And so I pulled that cancer card out and I got on the cheer team. And it was fun. I didn't continue it after that year. It was fun while it lasted, but I don't think it'll be something I'll go back into. But yeah, I was like, okay, well, that was kind of fun to just like dip my toes into. And it was something that I wanted to get off my bucket list. And so I was thinking, I was like, it should be able to like do this because they just don't have that. And so medical bills are very expensive. Like one of my chemos that I had to take like 7 times was $65,000. That's me. And so we wanted to find a way to make it financially stable for families that might be in those financial situations, so their kids would still be able to like go out and do things that they love after chemo, because no kid should be told no because of a money restriction. We just want to help any child that has gone through chemo just get back into something they love, or even not even get back into, or just try something new. And so that's why Even Mermaids Get Leukemia is so special to me. And the name actually came from my Facebook fight page that my mom had created in the hospital while I was diagnosed. And the name, I wanted to be unique because I didn't want it to be basic. I didn't want it to be like Hannah's fight page and Hannah's battle. And the main reason behind it was because it was already taken. But I mean, I had to think of something unique. Hannah's a very basic name, you come to find out, and there was already a Hannah's fight, Hannah's battle, Hannah leukemia, like there's just everything. And so I was like, okay, Even Mermaids Get Leukemia it is. And so with that name, my mom, like, if you look it up on Facebook, you will find everything from the day I was diagnosed to today. She has kept it so well informed. There is many, like you will see the ups and the downs. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no saying cancer is easy. It's the truth. Like there are pictures from my February Valentine's Day on there that just depict everything. It's raw, it's real, it's not filtered, it's not pretty, it's honest. And so I thank her for doing that, because I definitely wasn't going to do that at the time. So I am very happy that she did. So Even Mermaids Get Leukemia is an ode to my mother and her just keeping up with that Facebook page, because it is special to me now. And I didn't know at the time it would come to me as it is now. Very minute of my story, but if you have any questions, I would love to answer them.
Well, awesome, Hannah. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, I had heard your story, not in this detail when I heard you on the podcast, and I think honestly, it's a very powerful story. I know I have a couple of questions that people that are going to be seeing this might also have questions, and I think that's pretty awesome that even Mermaids Get Leukemia. That name is very unique. And that is actually when I came across it on social media, I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. And that's when I read up on your story. So how does a child that has gone through treatment or is currently going through treatment, how do they apply to, or how is it, what's the process to be able, so you guys can work with them? Is this nationwide, and is there like an age restriction to where you all are helping?
Mhm. Okay, so it is nationwide. So if you live in the United States, we are able to help you. Um, on our website, there is a submit an app or nominated survivor form, and you can fill out that form yourself if you are a survivor, or you can fill out that form if you're a parent wanting to get this for your child, or a friend. Like if you know a cancer survivor and you want to apply, like nominate them, you are more than welcome to do that as well. We do ask that the child is under 18, but if the child was under 18 while going through chemo, then we ask that it is a year off, like in between a year off of chemo, if that makes sense. So like if I finished chemo when I was 17, we would kind of ask for that like year loop. So because we do feel that there needs to be some sort of cutoff line. And we think that's fair. So, yes.
Okay, awesome. Now, I was actually also seeing, and I want you to talk to me a little bit more about the cancer, the gold card that you were talking, that
Yes.
you talked about in the podcast, and then I actually saw it. I think like yesterday or today, or I think it was yesterday that you posted. So talk to me about that gold,
Mm-hmm.
the cancer card.
I have one here right now. I'll show you. So, I was known at school. My teachers would tell me this, my friends would tell me this, but I would always pull the cancer card. If I didn't want to do an assignment, I would say, like, if my teacher was to give an assignment one day, I would come the next day and be like, oh my gosh, I was throwing up all last night. I just couldn't do my assignment. I did do that once. And I'm sorry, Miss Stevenbergen. I will tell you right now that it was you. I did that too. And whenever I like, oh my gosh, I used it so many times. It's ridiculous. I would use it in high school when I had to take freshman PE. I would say, oh, my doctor says I can't do that workout. I can't run. My doctor says I can't run. And so for 5 months straight, my PE teacher thought I wasn't able to run. And then my mom I don't know, my mom ended up going to the school because the PE coach had like emailed her and said, oh my gosh, we didn't know it was so serious that she can't run. And my mom was like, hold up, she can run. And so then after that, they kind of laughed it off and they're like, okay, she got us there. And so I got known as so I did it for everything. I would pull the cancer card at school. I would pull the cancer card if I didn't want to go to something. I'd be like, oh, I can't go. I'm sorry. I feel really sick. And I would just make up all these excuses. So I decided to make my own. So now I don't have to tell people. I can just lay it down and be like, I'm playing my cancer card and not have to do things. And on the back, it does say that this card is to cancer survivors and their family members. So they are.
Okay. Sorry, cut off a little bit. Okay, well that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I
So
don't have any more. You're good.
well, at least now we know and we can see more about that on your social media as well. Hannah, you
Hmm.
also touched on something that's very important. You know, when you see all these kids that are going through treatment, like you were mentioning, a lot of the kids, like my daughter, they it was kind of hard. Well, it was difficult for them to explain, you know, what was hurting, what was not.
Hmm.
And one thing that I always say, and is that childhood cancer is not a St. Jude commercial. People have the misconception because they see these bald little kids laughing and playing,
Hmm.
and usually I have the parents tell me a little bit more, but you having been there, and I know this is you're very passionate about this, like all of us parents are, and I'm sure your parents are too. um, what can you tell us when it comes to to that misconception that people that do not know, they say, okay, well, childhood cancer is a commercial on TV of little kids, laughing and having fun,
Hmm.
firsthand. So, I mean, tell us about that.
This goes back to what I was talking about with nonprofits. The St. Jude commercial, they use the stereotypical um, bald child. I would say that's fair to say. They would use the stereotypical, the bald version of your chemotherapy. And I did have hair while going through chemotherapy. My hair started growing back while doing chemo, and people had the hardest time understanding that. When my hair started growing back, people were like, oh, she's done. She's cancer free now. I'm like, actually, I'm not cancer free until 10 years later. Oh my gosh, there's so much to tell you. And I would definitely have to explain all that to them. But um, the St. Jude commercial of the kids laughing and running down the hospital hallways it's not a real thing. There's HIPAA. You can't talk to any other patients. It's a very stressful thing because I am a very social person. So I would want to get to know everybody that I could ever talk to while going through chemo. I'd be like, who's next to me? I'm going to go say hi. And they're like, no, you can't. And I'd be like, why? They'd be like, because of HIPAA. And I get why HIPAA's a thing, but it made it so much more difficult going through treatment because I liked talking to kids. So that's stereotypical St. Jude laughing together with other cancer patients. That's not a thing. Also, the running and like playing and dancing with the IV pole. No, I would ask for Benadryl so I could sleep during chemo because I hated any sort of movement. Like, props to those TikTokers that actually get up and dance during chemo because I wouldn't do that. Like, I just remember being like, okay, put the IV Benadryl in. I'm gonna go to sleep, and I that was it. I slept through most of my 2.5 years of going through chemo. I I hated moving, so that St. Jude's commercial, I wouldn't have made it. But yeah, I do agree with you that St. Jude's commercial, the stereotypical, just trying to be happy, um, it's not real.
Yeah, and that's what I always tell people. That's what I preach to the choir, is saying, that's only
Mm-hmm.
2-3% of what actually happens. If you only knew the pain that all these kids go through, all the crying, all the that they just want to just at some point not even continue because it's hurting so much, and people don't see that, and it's difficult how they put childhood cancer, how they made people just kind of picture that part of it. It's not like that, and that's another thing that I'm trying to get across is obviously the 4% funding that you all receive, that our children receive, that's not enough. 4% is nothing, for childhood cancer research. And the other thing is just to kind of open up.
Absolutely not.
No, and the other thing is to open up the eyes of people and let them know what childhood cancer is, and what this monster really is, so people can be aware of that.
Mhm.
um, so Hannah, where are you right now as far as your roadmap? What is it that you have to continue doing?
Mhm.
Where are you at right now as far as all that?
So I am 1 year and like 6 months, so a year and a half off chemo. I go back every other month. So this month I don't have to go. I go back in November. And so far, I only have to get a CBC. So far, all my CBCs have been really good. Um, I mean, they haven't, last winter there was a couple like flu. So my white blood count was a little bit low, but it wasn't anything scary. It was really cool because actually you could see the white blood count fight off the flu and then go back up again. So, if you understand your body and what your counts mean, it's very interesting to actually like look at doctors' reports. I know people that don't go to the hospital as much as I did, or like just the average everyday Joe is like, okay, the doctor said I'm good. But now I know when I get older, if a doctor takes a test, I'm going to be like, can you please give me the results back? Because I know how to read them, and I know what good numbers are and what bad numbers are. And so I think that's a very sad skill to have, but a very useful skill to have for a kid at my age. I wish I didn't know it, but it's one of the useful things to come out of it. So that's really cool to see in my count. So I haven't had to really do anything about them.
Okay, well, we're glad, and honestly, what you're doing, everything that you're doing throughout the, you're using what you went through to help out so many people, and that is, to be commended, and God has a very big blessing your way. For everything that you're doing, can you actually also tell us how people can look for you on Instagram, how people can look for you on Facebook? And I know your
Mhm.
nonprofit also has a website. I will be posting all the links as well, but if you could just tell us how people can look you up on social media.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. So you can find us on Facebook under Even Mermaids Get Leukemia. You can also find Even Mermaids Get Leukemia on Instagram and on our website, which is evenmermaidsgetleukemia.org. My personal Instagram is Hannah Scotland, and my Facebook is Hannah Soderstrom. Scotland's my middle name, and believe it or not, Hannah Soderstrom was taken. Isn't that the craziest thing?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have guessed. But yeah, and then the link to the cancer cards, just the little humor stuff, that's on my personal account. So you can find that there.
Okay, that's so awesome, Hannah. All right, and right before we end, what will you tell? I usually tell parents, what will you tell other parents that are going through the same thing? But as of lately, we've had a lot of a new audience of teenagers, of
Mhm.
young, young females that are actually going through this, such as you. It's different when a child, like you said, a small child goes through it, because the parent is the advocate, the parent is the one that's actually speaking. But what will you tell somebody? I know you were 13 years old when you got initially diagnosed, and at that point, when you start hearing the doctors saying words like cancer, talking about medication, it's not like little kids that really at that point initially don't know a lot of it. But as a teenager, you're already aware of a lot of things. So what will you
Mhm.
tell other kids, other teenagers or young people that are going through the same thing?
This is something that I actually wish that I did, but I would definitely reach out to you and say, you are not too young to know what's going on. You don't have to be like, oh, they're not going to tell me because I'm too young. Ask them your questions. They will answer you. I promise you. Get to know what's going on. Know what medications you're taking. I promise you, please know what medications you are taking. I wish that I stayed on track of them. Know what medications you're taking, know what they do to your body, know what is going to happen. Do research. Don't just, I mean, you're going to have to probably get the chemo no matter what, but know what you're going to get before, so you kind of like understand. I wish that I had a little foresee into the future for a couple of my medications, and I wish that I cared, but I didn't care enough to do the research and find out what was happening. I let my mom and my dad worry about that. And if you worry about that, it's going to take so much stress off the parents. The parents are already so overwhelmed. And I know you are probably overwhelmed as well. Both should do. Don't get mad at your parents. I know during prednisone, the steroid phase, I got very mad at them for like the littlest things. And it was just because nice as you can to them. They're going through a hard time as well. If you have a sibling, be nice to them as well. That's going to be hard. Oh my gosh, Hannah, if your brother's taking out your puke bags, you should probably be nice to him. Just be considerate that you are not the only one going through cancer. Your whole family is, even though they don't have it. They're all going to face it as well. So, I mean, that's why they're included on the cancer card. Care and make it into something. This is probably going to be the worst thing that's going to happen in your life, but make something out of it. Like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. That's such a basic saying, but I mean, it works for so many people to just take it and turn it into something good. And it's very easy to do that. You just have to look at it in a different way.
Well, Hannah, I just once again just wanted to say thank you. This is truly an inspirational story, and more so because of what you're doing now. Because you were there, and you're currently still there, so you know exactly how it feels for all these other kids that have gone through it or are currently going through it. And I think it's great what you're doing, and you know all these kids, including yourself. You're my hero, and everything that you're doing. With your nonprofit organization. I think that's great because, like you say, when families are fighting, everybody's there. You know, you get all the nonprofit organizations, you get friends, everybody that's there to support you. But then somehow, once all that is gone, then the people are gone as well. So I just think that your organization, what they're doing for all these kids is great. So once again, thank you very much. I will be
Mm-hmm.
posting all the links of your website, your social media, of the Even Mermaids Get Leukemia, which again I think that's a pretty cool name. So people, I'm gonna be posting and I'm gonna be tagging Hannah on everything that I post, as far as the video when it does upload, and the preview video that I'm going to be doing. If you have any other questions, if you want to get a hold of her, if you want to get a hold of her parents, feel free to send her a message. If you know of somebody that has gone through it or is currently battling through it, and you want to nominating for this or what they're doing here with their nonprofit, feel free to reach out to them. Feel free to reach out to them and check a little bit more into that. Like I said, please click on all the links that I'm going to be posting about the Even Mermaids Get Leukemia, so you can see all the great work that they're doing and all the great work that they've done. And you can follow Hannah's story, everything that she went through since being diagnosed at 13 years old and where she's at right now, with doing all this. So, Hannah, again, once again, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of the Gold Corner. You're a part of this family now. And as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of the parents that have already been featured here on the channel to reaching out to you. I once again thank you so much for being motivation. Thank you so much for being an inspiration to not just the children, but the parents as well. So I just and also to everybody that took the time to watch this, I just wanted to say thank you all for this episode of the Gold Corner, for joining us in this episode of the Gold Corner. Again, I'm going to be posting all the links to Hannah and her nonprofit, so you can get a hold of her and see what they're up to, and all the great things that they're doing. So, and just keep in mind, guys, like I say every week, just remember to live each day to its fullest. Tomorrow's not promised. And like Hannah was saying, be nice to people, be kind to people. Let's
Mhm.
be a family. Let's pray for your family, pray for your children, pray for your parents, pray for our nation. And as I always say, just hold on a little while longer, because we're almost home. God bless you. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.